Hi everybody, my name is André Allard. I am the editor of Wings Over Quebec, Les Ailes du Québec, and I welcome you to this new podcast, Wings Over Quebec. Today's subject will be the A220, the best is yet to come. But before diving into today's subject, I'd like to tackle today's or the daily or weekly remembers. Just go at the bottom, click I like if you like our YouTube channel. You like this episode, you go and click the thumbs up button to say you like it. That helps us with YouTube referencing. I'm not asking for charity, just for you to click generously on I like on the bottom. Now, for those who are already subscribers or doing it right now, I'd say thank you very much. All right. A220, the best is yet to come, and this week we had a new order coming in from Qantas Airways, who ordered put an order for 40 aircraft, 20 A220-300s and 20 A321 LR. So for those who think that was an easy order to get for the A220, I'd like to remind you some facts about Qantas and the A220 and how long it took to get the aircraft to sell this aircraft to the airline. Because back in 2008, when Bombardier launched the C Series in Farnborough, a few weeks after that, Gary Scott, Martin Elliott, and Rob Dewar from Bombardier went to pitch the aircraft at Qantas Airlines. At that same occasion, there was someone from Macquarie Air Finance who assisted the pitch. They even did their own pitch to Qantas, because Macquarie Air Finance, who is also an Australian company, they were interested in leasing the aircraft. So they also made their own pitch to the airline. But unfortunately, Qantas did not order the aircraft back then. And the main reason why, or the main objection that Qantas had, was the main objection of so many airlines. It was a paper aircraft. Nobody wants to buy a paper aircraft, but because there are so many steps, and there's so many possibilities of failure between the paper aircraft and the in-service aircraft, that airlines won't take the risk to buy a new aircraft type. Because you have to think that today's airlines management team or executive are risk manager. Now, if you take just an example of the Qantas Airlines order, they ordered 20 A220-300 at probably a price close to $35 million a unit. That's a $700 million order. These aircraft are to stay in service for 20 years about. So that means it's a huge decision that implies a lot of financial risk for the airline, because if the aircraft does not perform as it should, then the investment is not going to be profitable, and that affects the entire airline's network or capability to establish new lines and getting out of that deal. So that's why airlines managers are very, very careful when it comes to new aircraft type. They'll look what risk takers are doing, and they'll base their decisions after risk takers have committed and have shown success with the aircraft. So that's the case of most of the airlines management. Now let's take an example of people who take some risk, like Delta Airlines. Ed Bastian, at the time in 2015, they ordered 45 aircraft. Now you got to figure out that for Delta Airlines the risk was not as big as for a smaller airline like Qantas. Delta had about 800 and around 800 aircraft in services, so that was about 5% of the fleet. They could afford a failure with the aircraft, even though, but what they did, they negotiated such a good deal with Bombardier that even if the C series failed back then, the risk was very low for Delta to lose money with it. And as a matter of fact, in this case, the risk or the loss was on Bombardier's side, and Bombardier had no choice but that making that deal with Delta, even if they will lose a lot of money for every aircraft delivered to Delta. So they took the gamble. They put the aircraft in service, and one of the things that's important with the aircraft today is the base of mechanic and people knowing the aircraft. How many are there mechanics that knows the aircraft, and where are they? Are they spread all across the territory, or are they concentrated in only 2 or 3 airports? That makes a big difference. As an example, when Swiss and Air Baltic began their operation with the A220, well, they were bringing the aircraft back to its own base every night. So just to make sure they had a certified mechanic over there that could go through any snags that appear during the day, fix them up, and get the aircraft up ready in the morning after. If you make the aircraft sleep in an outside base where there's no mechanic, then you're taking a risk that if there's no if there's a snag that showed up, okay, and you have nobody on the spot to sign the aircraft, fix the aircraft and sign it out, then your aircraft is lost for many hours, sometimes for a full day, just because there's no mechanic there. Because you have to bring one in, and then he has to fix. If there's parts to be replaced, he has to order them and stuff like that. So that's why at the beginning of the operation, everybody was bringing the aircraft back to its home base every night. Then, as the reliability of the aircraft grows, then operator tends to be more they tend to expand the possibility or the usage of the aircraft, and they goes to airport where they don't have far away airport where there's no mechanic. One of the best examples is Air Canada. When they put the aircraft in service, they started by operating in Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver. It was S-West services. And then once they start to feel more comfortable with the aircraft, they start doing flights to San Francisco as an example, whereas there's no mechanic, and it's far from any base where there are mechanics for the aircraft. So there's a risk there. If there's a major snag that shows up at San Francisco, then you're losing a flight, and it's big money loss for the airlines. But the airlines was confident that the risk of having a major problem far away was low enough to send the aircraft outside. So as the base of customer is widening, like in France, in Europe, now Air France has some, when Air France put its A220 in service this fall, people at Swiss and Air Baltic were very happy because they knew that the number of bays where there are, or the number of mechanics having knowledge of the A220 is gonna widen up. What happens is if everybody's let's say if 2, 3, 4 airlines fly into a small airport where there's no permanent mechanic there, but there's a technical contractor that does maintenance for airlines. Well, they will train a mechanic to work on the aircraft, so that would have another safety level, other availability on a faraway airport. So that's what is happening, because small businesses, small maintenance businesses, small MROs, as they see the number of aircraft being put in service, well, they're getting into it, and they're training people, and they're getting ready to give service to the aircraft. So As the fleet grows, the efficiency of the aircraft will grow either in terms of reliability, maintenance fees. That will go down. So that's the best part coming up for Airbus. So it's the more it goes, the easier it gets to sell the aircraft to airlines. As a matter of fact, now the risk of owning the aircraft has diminished very significantly, and now there comes a point if the aircraft is so efficient, better than anyone else in its category, then the risk becomes of not having one, and then the pressure goes back on airlines of, well, I have to buy some. My competitor, they have some, they do things, I can't do things, or they can make profits on routes that I'm losing some. So if I want to stay in the business, I have to buy some A220. So the pressure is going to switch. The most adverse risk business airlines right now, it's probably British Airways, or maybe not British Airways as IAG group. When this group orders A220, we're gonna be able to figure out that not everybody needs it, everybody wants it. That will be the main signal. But I expect American, United to order some in the next 2 years. They're gonna jump in. They will want to have some. So they're probably gonna be probably not the next, but they are gonna be in the group of buyers in the next 2 years. Also expect Lufthansa to add some to its fleet in the next 2 years, and then the more you have, the better, the easier. So that on that side, it's going fine. 2022, it's the year that Airbus is launching the Prefile in Mirabel. The Prefile is essential to the rentability or efficiency of the production lines of the A220. Airbus needs to ramp up production at 10, 15 for 10 or 14 per month in order to make profit with the program. That is quite established. But you cannot go up to 14 a month without the Prefile. The way the line was organized by Bombardier, they were supposed to reach 10 per month, but as more the time goes by, the more it becomes evident that the file at Mirabel was not able to sustain 10 per month. So the Prefile will help to reach the 14 aircraft a month. So the Prefile is essential in developing and getting the more aircraft on the market. As more aircraft are getting into market, we're going to see some more and more C-check, D-check, and then we'll have those 80s, those famous airworthiness directive. Now I want to make a clear explanation here. Airworthiness directives are measures that are sent usually by the FAA or Transport Canada or EASA, and they're usually made in collaboration with the OEMs, with the aircraft manufacturers, and they usually issued after a discovery of an issue with the aircraft. It could be structural, it could be mechanical, and the airworthiness directive, as it says, it's a directive. You have no option. The operators have no option of doing it or not. They must do it. Usually, they don't have to ground the aircraft. Aircraft are kept in operation, but there is a certain amount of hours of flight hours that the AD must be done within a certain amount of our flight times or delay. So usually that's how it goes. And then airworthiness directives are part of the business. I am registered, or I do receive weekly EDs from Transport Canada, and if I had those emitted by Transport Canada, but EASA and FAA, it's up to some weeks, it's 35, it's an average of 20-25 EDs a week on all aircraft type, new aircraft type, old aircraft type. I even seen recently an ED about the Cessna 172. There's always some. There's already have been some EDs for the Airbus 220, and there will be more. It's not, don't panic about that. People, well, Large media or generalist media tend to freak out when they see these things coming. Oh, there's a big safety problem with this type of. Calm down. EDs are part of the business, and usually when an ED is issued before a major accident happened, that's because that's the evidence that the system works. The problem has been identified before it becomes major and before it kills someone. So that's EDs are good for the aviation. It allows the aviation industry to be more safer. Period. So that's a good system. So that's gonna happen. Now the funny thing with EDs, usually they happen after the aircrafts are out of guarantee. So it's to the expense of the operator or the owner, the operator to fix the aircraft. And engineering department from the OEM are working with FAA or others, other transportation authorities to fix the problem, and then some of the problems are sold to the airlines. So if you want the fix, is sold to the airline. So that is extra incomes for the OEM. So as the base of the number of aircraft being out there in service is going to grow, well, income from in-service revenue is going to grow. So that will help Airbus to make money with this program. That's coming in within the next years. And the more the fleets are going to get used or older, and the more engineering support Airbus is going to be able to sell to airlines. So that's more income. So we might see some engineering being hired in Montreal by Airbus in the coming years just for service support. Now, let's talk about A220 500. First of all, the last 2 months, everything I've read on media, specialized media, was old stuff. I've seen nothing new about the A220 500 in the last 2 months that has make me change my mind about this aircraft. Well, it's a great aircraft. It's going to be a great aircraft when it's going to be launched. But I did not write about it recently just because, like I said, I've wrote so many articles already about it. You want to know if the 500 is a feasible aircraft and how and why? Get on the website. On the French website, I've published a lot. Maybe in English, not yet. But if you go on the French website and put the articles about the 220 500 into Google Translate, you'll find out why. So, but there's a thing about the 500 right now. If you write in your title A220 500, it grows, it brings more click. So I'm not gonna start writing articles or publishing stuff about the A220 500 just to get more click. I won't repeat myself. I don't like that. So that's why I didn't write about it. Now, when will there be a 500? It's quite simple to understand. The head of marketing of Airbus has been very clear. For him, the goal is not to try to sell the A220 500 to A320 neo operator, because that would be cannibalizing their own orders or the A220 neo order book. What they will do is they will try to sell the 500 to A220 operator, the 300s operators. So the strategy then would be to enlarge the number of aircraft with those operators with the 500. So then the A220 500 wouldn't be there competing directly against the A320 neo then. But if you have 12 operator of the aircraft type, let's say the 12 operator of A220 300, well then you have 12 potential customers for the 500. If you have 25 operator of the 300, then you have 25 potential customer for the 500. Getting the point? The more operator there are, the higher the probability that you're gonna sell some 500 and to sell enough of them to make money out of it. So The priority for Airbus right now is to selling the aircraft to many more new customers, spreading out all over the world, so more airlines are buying it. And then when there'll be enough, the customer base will be wide enough, then it will be time to start pitching or selling the 500. So for the next 2 years, I don't see Airbus, I don't see the 500. Forget about it. It's not gonna, I would, let's say, I've learned to say never with this business, so I'm not gonna say never. But I think it's highly improbable that the 500 be launched in the next 2 years. The next 2 years, Airbus priority with the A220 program, selling it and ramping up production with the Prefile. Like I said, that the Prefile is the main. The Prefile would be the main obstacle or the main reason or the main way to rentabilize or make money with ramp up the. The Prefile is important with the in production ramp up, and it has to be successful. The launch of the Prefile has to be successful, and the ramp up has to be successful. So that's the priority of our boss right now. It's the Prefile. Forget about the rest, okay? Now, if you see something new about the 500, if I see something new about the 500 in the coming years or months, then I'll write about it and I'll put it in the title. But unless there's something new, I'm not gonna put A220 500 in the title just to get some more click. So that's where I stand. That's my opinion, and that's what coming up next for the next year. And when I say the best is yet to come, well, look at it. The aircraft program is ramping up. Airbus is the more there are aircraft, the easier it gets to sell the aircraft. So as time goes by, customer base is widening up, and the probability of having a 500 is getting closer. So on this, I'll complete this episode. If you stayed with me all the way through, that means you really like the episode. There's no reason why you don't click I like. Thumbs up, please. And happy holiday season. There might be some few special presentation between the holidays season, because I'll have time to and maybe make a wrap up of this year and making some prediction for next year. But between now and then, take care and see you next.